And here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo, our first ever double feature. We are going to today have our third episode in the You Had Me at Halo series spoiler cast, talking about the TV show, and our 43rd at regular episode. As there's been a lot of news that's dropped over the last 2 weeks, we're finally getting geared up for season 2. So if you are here for that, you can, well, we hope you hang around, but we will probably cover that in about an hour or less. And if you're just here for the spoiler cast, we're going to talk about that first. But before we get into everything, let's go ahead and meet today's cast. A bunch of Spartans who never expose their ass cheeks. First up, we got Spartan Jesse, aka Mr. Don Cabeza. At least not on TV, not on camera.
I would happily do it on TV if people wanted a horror movie.
Right.
Hello, how you doing?
Next up, we have Spartan Aarsal, aka Mr. Soulblazerz. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good stuff, man. Next up, Spartan Austin, aka Mr. Forbear.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, Abe, I was going to say, speak for yourself, man. Like, you never know what you might find out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, I shouldn't have opened that up. Well, I'll work better. I'll do better next time, you guys. Don't want to be presumptuous, right? Like, I mean, who knows what's going to happen right after this is done. Next up, we got Spartan Daniel, aka Mr. Knottian. How's it going, Daniel?
I'm tired. I'm ready for the weekend. It's a long week, so this is a nice break.
I feel you, man. You know, I've kind of been there myself this week, and you guys ever have one of those weeks where you don't get enough sleep, you're stressing, you wake up in the morning, you're like, who the fuck is that guy in the mirror?
What day is it?
It's like I would probably lose my own lookalike contest today. So, but Daniel, you're doing well. So just keep baking it, and right after we'll get you out of here, and you can go pass out. Finally, it's Spartan Abe, aka Onebadmutha. All right, guys, let's just jump right into it because we got a lot to cover today. And we're going to start with the show. And I really quickly want to go around again like we did last week and just get some really high level thoughts, and then we'll come back around and kind of dig into the things that we liked and didn't like about what happened this week. All right, let's go ahead and start with you this week, Mr. Jesse.
Good. The beginning part seemed a little. At first I thought they were evil UNSC guys beating these children to death, but then I realized it's a horrible, awful mining planet, and
like local
everything.
warlords.
Yeah, it was local government that just smashed a kid to death with a stick because he tried to move 10 feet and they
right, just because he could, I guess.
But it's interesting backstory for Maki and seeing why she would look at the Covenant as good and humanity as bad. Give some motivation on that for her. The interplay with just how different Cortana is in the show compared to the games and the books, where I think it's going to build into that trusted relationship between them, and it's not going to just kind of start there, because the emphasis is on building to things instead of, well, you've got this backstory. They're immediately pretty in sync, and now you're just going to go shoot a bunch of people in a video game. It's their entire thing is the story and getting to those points, and then seeing it also. I wonder, there's a lot of big different sets in this show that boy does it look expensive and really nice. And if you ever watch the post show, it was all Charlie Murphy and going over how she learned Sangheili, which was like a whole language they actually made. And the prophets are puppets, but then they use CGI to give them more expressive, realistic-looking faces and just things like that. It feels like they're doing as much in camera as they can, and then using CGI and stuff to add on to it. And that's, I think, really helped the quality of the show, because that's a lot of work and it's really time-consuming, but it shows.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, like this feels different than video game adaptations to me, because it just doesn't feel like they were making a movie and then they decided to throw Max Payne in the title with Marky Mark for some goddamn reason. It feels like they're making something based on this that they put thought into, and they wanted to make a good story out of it. And I'm interested to see where things go. You know,
So
yeah.
Overall, Jesse, just getting some feelings. So we'll kind of foreshadow, I guess, where people are going to be going through the show. Did you like this better? Are you liking the direction more overall, or are you kind of staying even? Or even
I liked it quite a bit. Down? Yeah, I think it's been on an upwards trajectory. I thought episode 1 had good moments, but there was a lot of cheese, and they've really cut down on the cheese. Like there's good acting, there's good writing, and there's very good direction, which you don't normally get out of video game properties in shows and movies.
Speaking of video game property, honestly, I feel like I'm just going to refer to it as like a book adaptation, like straight up, or like books adaptation kind of. It's less video game, more just, hey, we got all this information, all this lore, all this backstory. Let's do something with it. That's how it feels to me.
The first 12 years of the games didn't really give a shit about the lore.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well. So with that, last week you were definitely down. So
yeah.
Overall, kind of like just general. Where are we starting today? Are you going to be more talking about the upward or downward trajectory?
I watched the episode, right? And during it, I had many thoughts like, oh, they're doing this. Okay, they're doing that. At the end of it, I wrote my first impressions, and basically it was just that I've come to terms with the show universe. I've come to terms with the changes they've made. I've started to see why they're doing certain things and how they're progressing forward, kind of. Like, for example, I feel like Jesse mentioned it. In the book, Fall of Reach, Chief and Cortana meet and immediately have like a live fire exercise, and that's how they cement their bond, right? Yeah. The show looks like it's taking it a little longer, but at the same time, I can already see that the end result is going to be the same, is what I have a feeling of. The end result of the Chief and Cortana and in general, and the Spartans program in general, I feel, is going to lean towards where the games kind of begin. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them taking like a different route to get to there, rather than just saying, hey, this is how they are. It's like, here's the Chief learning about his humanity, learning about why he's fighting for these people, right? Like that scene where he's in Reach, looking around, seeing everybody, right? Like I really like that scene. And I feel like that's a really important part of developing him to eventually become like, the savior of humanity that he becomes. Multiple times.
So you're moving up a little bit.
Oh, big time. Episode 3 was definitely better than 2 for sure. Overall, still a few gripes here and there. Like Kwanha as a character, I'm just like, I really don't care. Some spoiled princess, like zero care right now, especially from this episode. But overall, it's moving forward. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so far I'm more mixed, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Mr. Forebear, where are you at this week?
Yeah, so I wasn't on last week to talk about episode 2, and I made the horrible mistake of watching episode 2 and episode 3 back to back. So some details are a little crossed for me, but I think that like Jesse said, like Aarsal said, like the show is on an upward trajectory. Every episode is better than the last. Episode 2 was interesting in unfortunate ways, and I think that episode 3 was way more interesting in way better ways. I loved some of the implementation of oh gosh, now I can't remember her name, but the human covenant character Maki, thank you. That Maki has like this technology built into her physical body now as a result of having lived with the covenant her entire life. I love the juxtaposition, like explaining why she would side with the covenant. Like she obviously had a terrible life beforehand. It's all very, very interesting. I will say that my initial reaction to her like picking up her finger and a little energy sword coming out of it, I was like, that's weird.
I just thought that was an unreleased nail polish.
That's the You Had Me at a Halo nail polish. That's what it looks like.
Damn it!
The colors it.
I should have bought some, man. The funny thing is I'm not going to say that I was the most in tune with what the show was going to be, but as far as like my friend circle goes, right? Like I feel like I was the person that had my expectations set most appropriately. Like this is going to be its own universe. This is going to do this. It's going to do that. The Maki finger blade thing definitely made me react negatively, like right off the bat. But like as soon as that like scene ended and I thought about it, I was like, oh, that was super cool. Another thing that I think this episode did incredibly well that Halo Nightfall completely failed to do was make the Lekalo like actually scary.
Yeah.
They were super interesting in this, but I'm feeling incredibly positive about the path that the show is on. I feel like there are still 6 episodes, and like if it's where it's at right now, like it's only going to get crazier. So I'm super stoked on it. I think that everything was great. Pablo Schreiber did a fantastic job, I think, this week as Chief again. Love that ass, like good going, bro. Like I'm wondering if maybe they'll hold out full frontal nudity until next season, but like it's to be seen. But yeah, to answer the question, yeah, I'm feeling very positive about the show. There was one moment of doubt that I had with the mucky finger blade, but very quickly came around on it.
All right, no, that's some interesting insights so far from everybody. Like I said, I'm probably going to fit more mix, but Daniel and a few of you guys kind of talk me into some perspective. try not to be old man. As soon as I saw Master Chief and not putting the Cortana chip in his helmet, I was like, that's probably not going to happen.
Oh, that was if I can, like, really quickly. Another thing that bugged me out this episode, which lowered my overall feelings about it, but again, eventually was something that I was like, it is what it is. It's doing its own thing. Was I feel like Cortana looking the way that she does makes even less sense now that she's obviously fully 3D rendered. That like it might be like face scans from the actress that's playing Halsey, but like that is a full on 3D render. It's a little confusing why they decided to go that route, but as the episode went on, it definitely grew on me more for sure.
Okay. No, that's good.
Well, and the reason Jen Taylor actually voices her is because due to delays and everything, Natasha McElhone wasn't able to play Cortana, so that's why it ended up changing so much.
And I love it. What a great change!
Yeah, the voice is great. Yeah.
Those, and you just mentioned probably the two. I'm going to come in here more mixed. I definitely have some things that I'm higher on than previous weeks, and I got some things lower. But Daniel, I want to hear you. I think you were more on the high end last time. So are you kind of like? Are you any different than the rest of the panels so far?
I think I gave last week's a 7.5 if I remember right. And I don't know. I'm horrible with numbers because like with rating, because I kind of feel like it's funny. I gave you all the like if you set your expectations right, like that speech last week. But I constantly find myself, especially when I was watching this one, having that inner turmoil of like forcing myself to separate from my love and knowledge of the games and the book lore compared to the TV show, because like obviously the finger blade was just like that was dumb, but I can look past it. But like the just the setup for Cortana, because Cortana was never in the books or the game never meant to override an intelligence. It was never meant to. She was never meant to. She also wasn't meant as a spy. To be a spy. And so like that whole setup, like I can see that they're trying to build that
conflict, kind of
that conflict, I guess. But if you expect something to go from this like super sentient AI who has directives, who has an understanding of their goals and the necessity of meeting those goals, it's going to take something massive, especially since she can't interact with Forerunner tech, right? So like it's going to take something massive to convince me that that's a believable slide in the relationship. I mean, I do think that overall this was a really solid episode. Once you can really kind of separate yourself from that element of relating back to the books and the games, right? But I think overall it did some things really well and others not so well. Like I love every time Soren's on screen. Love him, like I feel like the charisma, his background as a Spartan really drives that dichotomy between him and Chief really well. And I think I actually like Kwanha. I think that bringing a more human story to the insurrectionists, other than what we're all familiar with insurrectionists as, is a nice change. And really, on the flip side of that, leaning really hard into the UNSC bad.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
That I feel like that's a little bit too overdone, and especially with Halsey. That the exchange between her and her clone. I mean, extremely cold, right? And of course, Halsey was cold in a lot of ways, but not when it came to her Spartans. And I feel like that that wall of trust that she has up against, like, the Spartans inherently trust her. They have this innate sense of her being the mother figure, especially since in this universe they don't remember they don't remember their childhood, right? So it's weird how they're kind of playing her a little bit more into that evil scientist-y trope, but I think there's a lot good, but I think those things really stood out to me as kind of nibbles, I guess.
I gotcha. It's interesting because from last week to this one, there were some parts that actually I thought got a lot better. There's a couple things I really liked this week. There's a few things that there was at least one thing I really didn't like, and then I have a bunch of little nitpicks throughout. And I think like the writing again, we talked about it being inconsistent. I don't think anybody kind of picked it out this around, but I still feel like it's not consistent throughout the show. Like there is parts, for example, I actually really liked when Halsey's talking to her clone.
Yeah.
I thought that was like,
yeah, I mean, it was really well written.
Yeah, that was so weird and but it was so like well acted, and it wasn't something you just you normally expect or see. Like you would expect normally somebody to come there and it's like, oh, I know what's about to happen, for there to be some sense of panic or whatever. But she's just like, nope, this is what I was going to do, and I'm not going to
you had
fight
those
myself.
little micro expressions of fear, like that was fantastically done. It was very well acted. It's just she's a little bit too
unfeeling,
a little callous.
Yeah.
I think the clone scene was great. I think that the clone mistaking herself for the real Halsey, even for like the briefest moment, was a great touch, and like kind of cliche to be expected, right, with the whole clone thing. And then I think that they did a really good job of kind of conveying like the acceptance of it, like you said, like the very subtle hints of like, oh, I am going to die today, kind of situation for the cloned Halsey, but her totally being appreciative of like what that means for her real self, I guess. I thought that was a solid touch.
Also, you guys reminded me, and I meant to mention it, the creepy scientist who like that was just so
what the hell, man.
That was one of those. It's like, what was that? That's just there to. I feel like Halo does right now. Every single week, there's going to be like 2 scenes that they just throw it in there to say this isn't for your kids.
He's going to turn on them for sure at one point.
Well, hey, it's equality, right? Last week we got Makis.
All right, well, so let's talk about the ass cheeks in the room, because that's probably the biggest. That's probably the biggest topic.
Turn on? Yeah, I believe it. I agree.
So
get over those pills.
I feel like I look at Twitter and I like to look around and kind of see what the general perceptions are, and I feel like a lot of the perception of this episode is kind of based on whether you are accepting of the direction of Master Chief or not.
Yeah,
it feels like that's a big part of it. For me, I think last week I came to grips. They're going in a different direction, and for whatever reason, nothing here really surprised. I mean, I didn't expect ass cheeks, but it's like whatever. Anybody's watched Westworld is like that, like whatever. Like you don't even think about that stuff on cable TV anymore. But so it's but just like I think the main thing that people are, especially fans of the books and the games are struggling with is the fact that you have this chief that's like going through this discovery phase, right? Like it seems like they're trying to set it up where he's going to discover whether humanity is worth saving. And it's kind of interesting because so far everything they've shown about humanity, either you are rich and powerful and are an asshole, or you are just, poor and beaten down, right? It's like they painted humanity as like this race not worth saving up to this point, and now here goes Chief, and he's going out there to find out. It's kind of like, I don't know if that's a little bit tropey or whatever, and I kind of get what they're doing.
I think you have an issue with it because it's too accurate.
So let's talk about that. So you guys jump in on that. Right. The elimination of the middle class, basically, and in order to be upper class, you got to be an asshole. So what do you guys think? Am I on to something with the themes, or is that not where they're going with this?
I mean, that kind of comes into the play of one of my main complaints with the show, which is just that there's no gray. Honestly, Unity is just bad right now. Like, basically, it's just black and white. Unity bad, Insurrection is good, and that's not how it is in the game. It's not how it is in real life. You know what I mean? Right. So I'm hoping they'll continue to show the grays, or they'll show them eventually. It's why I was kind of hopeful for Quan Ha's character arc, and why I was just annoyed at her in this episode. Take me there. Why? I have money. No, you don't. You're nobody. Like, you don't have any access to anything. You have no funds. You just want stuff. What the heck? Ugh. That aside,
he wants to go fight for people, man. Like,
yeah, because she's a trained fighter and can do so much. Oh God. Maybe I'm hoping if she actually goes back and she sees like a side of an insurrectionist that she didn't see. I feel like I already mentioned this before too. Yeah, I don't know. It's that's something the show needs to work on, in my opinion.
Well, the setup. You can't, like, the nuance generally comes after the setup. And they're still establishing where things are going to go, how it's going to hit. Like, there has been gray in the sense that I think there's been good people shown, there's been bad people shown. We don't really know enough of the Covenant politics yet to see where the good, where's the bad there. Like, a lot of that stuff, and they've already got a season 2, and if the show goes multiple seasons, people normally start off somewhere pretty low at the beginning of something. Like, take Game of Thrones, Jaime Lannister. First episode, what does he do? He tries to kill a little kid. By the end of that show, he's pretty morally gray, where he's a mix of good and bad. But it takes time, and we're just so used to looking at things and characters that we've already seen for decades now in other forms. And
to be fair,
sort of there.
I was gonna say, to be fair, like, we already do have an embodiment of gray, right? That's Chief. I mean, he is.
Yes. Yeah,
in the first episode, he decides.
I mean, more so like the Unity leadership. You know what I mean?
Right, and I'm getting to that. I was going to say the difference between like Jaime Lannister becoming gray is that there is an arc there, and I think the difference is like they're really hitting hard right out of the gate that these organizations, these structures, these foundations aren't gray, and I'm like, I think that takes more time to dispel. Whether it's intentional or not.
I don't think Oni's ever going to be gray. I think in their 343's Oni is always going to be terrible, and they seem to have quite a bit of power right now. Yeah, I do wonder if that shift is what leads to better people getting more control.
And there was a scene in this episode where, for example, when the Covenant ship slips faces in is done, I'm watching these guys. I'm like, dude, just blow it up. I don't care if someone's talking to you. Just fire on that ship, blow it up. Don't take any chances, right? But it still showed this human commander, this human ship, literally send a probe in and try and rescue humans from a Covenant ship. I thought that was pretty cool, right? That was kind of like not like pure, strictly militaristic.
That's actually one of my nitpicks, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, really? Yeah, because I felt like okay. What my nitpick of that scene is Maki just walking straight. That was a nitpick. I'm like, okay, lady, someone's gonna shoot you, but whatever. It's a show based on an action series, but them like. So are you saying it's a nitpick as in you don't think they should have done that?
So here's my nitpicks. Like, I'll just throw them all in there. I think there's been I think there's some lazy writing in some areas. It's like stuff that just doesn't make like, it's not logical within that universe. Like those guys waiting on a Covenant ship to see if there's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, first of all, how did it just plant itself right in front of them? And then they didn't fire on it. They, like that whole exchange, like it's the coincidences. It's like all the gaps of logic. Like you have to just almost suspend all. And I have a problem with this with all shows, and that's where Game of Thrones really, really lost me.
They were pretty prepared though. They had their guns out. They had their weapons ready. They're like, just in case something happens, we're gonna, like we're on the ready the entire time.
Well,
just how they stumbled upon him. Like, why did you stumble upon him and never shoot down the, like, why, you know what the Covenant are, right? Like, you see that ship. It just, nothing there kind of made sense to me.
I feel like a
the
big part of Abe's nitpick comes from the show has never shown us a Covenant ship trying to hail a UNSC ship. So, like, why would you trust that at all? Like, why would you trust any sort of communication interception whatsoever? So I feel like the show does ask you to do a lot in terms of like ignoring some things, especially if you're a fan of the games. Just ignoring a lot of like what UNSC protocol probably would be if
she did have the she was using a human.
She
radio.
did absolutely.
Distress beacon, yeah. And I mean, they literally searched her. They put her on the ground. They made sure she had nothing on. Like, they did their due diligence. I thought
they've made it clear that they're trying to get all the Covenant tech and info they can. So if they could have this ship and go through and figure out Covenant tech, I think that was their motivation for not wanting to immediately destroy it.
Well, so see, Jesse, you did a better job writing that than they did.
But they've shown that repeatedly with Miranda Keyes, and everything she's doing is trying to figure out the Covenant and rework their tech. And so when they have a chance for getting a full Covenant cruiser under their control, you want to take that instead of just immediately blowing it up when it's showing completely inactive with one life form essentially on it because of the way the very cool hunter worms.
No, that's fair. They did say that there was like minimal heat signatures aboard the ship.
And Amanda makes a nice point where she's like, they made the decision on the fly, right? She's in the chat. They made the decision on the fly, and there's no one there to like really go through the protocol. Though, so I feel like it was just the commander's decision. Like, I hear this human, she sounds in distress.
All right. I'll be outvoted on that one. I'll accept that one, but explain this one to me.
Wait. Before you get to that one, really quick, I did like, even though they didn't name drop it, I did like how they still did the Cole protocol. You know what I mean? I was waiting for her to.
Well, they did say
the database. Did they actually say it?
Yeah. There's a computer voice. It's very hard to hear over all the.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah.
But there's a computer voice that says enable Cole protocol.
I was watching her hack it, and I'm like, I swear, if she gets navigation data, I'm gonna be like unreasonably irritated if that happens. And it didn't. So right away, I'm like, yes, okay, nice. You know, we're still in the game here. Okay, Abe,
that was the one thing that I like. I didn't get to chime in earlier. That was the one thing that I actually enjoyed. Was that at least that was true. Like, as far as the Covenant ship showing up, like they've had the ability to track UNSC slips base jumps for a while by that point, so like that's totally believable. They probably tracked that ship, jumped in front of it, but I agree with Abe with a lot of the things like logic. Like you wouldn't just without doing some sort of scans or additional probing before picking another being up, because it's not even just about military standards. It's also about intelligence regarding quarantining, right? You don't know what potential viruses or life forms may be on that person, period, right? Like this, we're talking about somebody who has spent time with the Covenant. They never recovered Covenant prisoners up to that point, right? So I think there's definitely a lot of like heavy lifting that your imagination has to do in that scene.
So let's keep moving.
Okay.
I think you bring up some good points, all of you. I will go and accept some of these answers, but I want to. Okay, so let's talk about Mr. Aster Chief for a minute. When he gets walked up on by the by Spartan. All right, so you got Master Chief in front of a freaking mirror with Cortana there. They don't hear a Spartan like standing around the corner behind them. Like, isn't that the most like I don't know? It's like a sitcom-y almost type of thing. Where no, okay,
she's not in her armor. She's in her underweave.
But actually, no. I wouldn't, because literally they actually mentioned in the books that if the Spartans want to be silent, they can be dead silent. Like not a person can hear them. So that's actually.
Yeah. And she's not in.
And
her
I feel like
Mjolnir.
Chief had other stuff he was paying attention to.
Yeah, I actually like that scene.
Yeah, he was just feeling emotions for the first time. He's not. I don't think he was like hyper focused on his surroundings and whatnot. And he wasn't trying to hide anything.
He forgot to go in a locked bathroom. I don't.
No, he didn't even
I don't
try
think
to
they have
hide
locked bathrooms.
He didn't even try to hide where he just put it in his locker. I think he's just he's
Okay.
He's kind of messed up mentally right now, so I don't think that he is really thinking things through like that. He's just I want to do this. I'm going to do this.
The scene was that like he had no hesitation. I really like that. It was only like a second or two, but it was like, okay, it's here. He literally cuts Cortana off. He just cuts it, takes it out. You know, I like that.
Okay, all right. So let's keep going. One more. All right.
Not my ass.
So let's talk about Soren and his relationship with what's her name? Kwanha. Okay. So I think I don't have as much issues with either character right now, but again, I thought so 1 minute, we see him short-tempered, right? Like, hey, I'm going to smash you. And what you say to him, like, basically, the only thing that's keeping me
crush
from
your skull for stealing my favorite ship.
Well, no,
no, before that, when she called him an asshole.
Yeah, she called him an ass. I was like, dude, you're gonna tell me you're that high strung after smoking all that weed last episode? It's like, first of all,
when you're a king of your own little fiefdom and someone calls you an asshole that you're doing a big favor for.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and then but then immediately after,
I do feel like
but
a lot.
But that's the thing. Remember, we talked about this before, even when we were talking about Halo Infinite, the game, and that whole like WWE turn, like where it's like you don't get a build up for this. It's like I told Master Chief I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to keep my word. That's kind of what he made it seem like. All of a sudden, she's trying to steal his ship, and then she's begging him, and he says, "Okay, I'll take the money." And if I don't get the money from you, then I'll get it from selling you with the bounty or whatever. It's like all of a sudden, it's like none of that lines up to me.
She annoyed him enough he's like, he's going to do a favor for John, but if she's going to be a pain in the ass and cause him any issues, then that's off.
So
now you're writing it though. See, if they would have wrote that in there, if he would have like,
that's just how it came off to me.
Did it? All right, because I would have.
Sorry,
okay.
Dan.
Go ahead. No, do it. I'm running.
I was going to say, it seemed like there seemed to be an inference that she reminds him of Chief, right? Like Chief wants to go back and fight. That's what she wants to do, and so I thought it was more of that being that unspoken, reverence to Chief. But I was going to mention earlier, we talked about how. Abe was talking about how Soren was smoking weed. Well, I mean, it is on character for him to yell at Kwanha 1 second and then mention getting chicken the next because he's hungry. So,
one thing though is there was one word that changed Soren's demeanor like instantly, right? He was like, "Listen, Kwanha, whatever, you're not doing anything." Blah blah. Then the moment Kwanha said deuterium, right away there was a shift in Soren's movement. And what we know from the first episode, deuterium is one of the most, if not the most valuable material on the planet, in the galaxy, right? So I feel like that helps reinforce Soren's character of like focusing on the what's it called, worldly desires, kind of like money, monetary, food, weapons, things like that,
resources, right? I mean, that's what deuterium is.
Yeah,
right? It's fuel.
But I didn't feel like that was out of character for him, because in general he's like, listen, it's not. He feels like someone that always calculates risk and reward, always, in everything he does. He wouldn't have survived for as long as he did right now, where he is, if he didn't. That's the impression I get anyway from his character. So it feels like the moment she said deuterium, he's like, okay, now I'm interested, and you better live up to this, because otherwise, like, you're gonna find you don't screw with me. So that change felt kind of okay for me, for his character.
I guess my issue with that, you could write a lot of ways to get there, right? I think all you guys brought up good points. I think there is a lot of ways to make that make sense. I just didn't think they sold it really well. I guess that's the main issue. So you got 2 out of 3 from me, 66% so far. So good job. But
what was your main gripe? You said you had one major gripe. What was that?
So my major gripe was the fact, and this goes back more to me being a Halo fan, is the whole Cortana actually does have the ability to control Chief. Yeah. When she shut him down, for that second. I was like, oh man, it's like I was hoping that was just something that Halsey
An
sold.
inference. Yeah.
I was hoping that was just her manipulating everybody and tricking him into it, and then we would find out that wasn't the case. To me, that would have been a lot more interesting to kind of see her play them like that. But the fact that it actually was the case where Cortana can control Chief, that does change the dynamic a lot. And I do see, like, to what you were saying, I think was it, I can't remember which one of you guys said it earlier. They could still get to where we would expect the Chief Cortana relationship to be, but right now it is kind of weird. It is kind of it is kind of abrupt for somebody who's just been a Halo fan for 20 years. And a lot of stuff I can accept, but that was a little bit one that I didn't necessarily buy.
Was there a chip? I feel like I saw a chip, but from what we know, Cortana's directly inside Chief's head right now, right? Wasn't that what the
you saw a chip get they like it was all like soldered up so that it like healed the wound after being inserted.
No,
I think they put her into it. They took her out of the brain, put her into a chip, brought that chip over, and put her, and then that's from that chip was what they installed into into Chief's mind, then used that hot edge to cauterize the holes they made.
I feel like what might happen, Abe, is that the show will eventually reach a point where she can no longer do that, where they kind of accept that she's there more as a partner, not a controller, and it's less directly in your head and more the chip interfaces with the suit or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like that's where they're kind of leaning towards. That's my impression anyways.
Well, they've shown the chip in like the opening sequence. There's the hole in the back, there's the blue. I think that chip is going to be how she interfaces into the Mjolnir directly. So like that'll be like a connection between, and that'll go into, it goes into his brain, and that connects directly to the suit to get her a lag-free gaming experience.
Right, game mode on, basically.
I do think it's interesting that I wasn't super into the idea when they started going down that path that it was going to be directly in Chief's head. I do think that it creates interesting character moments where Chief can be like he was in this episode, completely in civilian clothes and still fully interact with Cortana. With that kind of being the direction that the show's going in, that like, hey, Chief isn't always in his armor. As a matter of fact, for basically 2 episodes in a row, he hasn't been. But he and Cortana can still have that very intimate, very personal relationship.
Yeah, and actually, Forbear, you mentioned that's actually one of the things I don't mind about it, and that's some of the potential of it, right? Because now you can create a situation where you can have that dynamic whenever. I mean, you could go too far with it, where it could get a little sitcom-y, and he's always there to talking to her about everything that's going on. I could see them taking it too far, but if they do it right, there's a lot of potential there. I think the fact that he can go out and do this whole exploring humanity, whatever, and she's talking to him, so there's some. This is just a potential thing. This is an opportunity thing. I think to me, that's the one area where it does make a little bit of sense, and I don't mind it from that standpoint. If I were trying to rationalize it, so that aspect going forward, I don't hate the fact that she can just appear anytime. And so let's talk about that. Jen Taylor, I think she's one of the bright spots so far for me of the first 3 episodes. What do you guys think?
Oh,
great job!
That was awesome.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I got chills when I heard her speak for the first time. It was a weird moment for me, but like super cool. I think that Jen, like just like she did with the weapon in Halo Infinite, I think embodies a young Cortana very, very well. I thought it was great. I thought it was a fantastic performance.
Yep. The worst part about the performance wasn't even her. It was just the odd kind of like lip sync issues with the CG of the actual AI. But she was fantastic. I mean, she's always awesome. So it was nice to have, when we first heard about the series, finally kind of getting off the ground and Jen Taylor wasn't going to be Cortana. It was one of those things where you kind of like, okay, well, we'll see how it works. But like getting to see her embody the character in every medium has just been cool.
It would have been interesting if they had done the same thing with Steve Downs voicing Chief when he's in the armor.
Yes.
But then it's Pablo Schreiber whenever he's out of it.
Yeah.
That'd be weird.
Anakin Darth Vader situation.
Chief, something happened to your voice in there? No, I don't know what you're talking about. I always talk like that.
And Daniel, I do hope, and Forebear, you mentioned it too. Is like, yeah, the CG for Cortana is, it doesn't make that much sense, and hopefully they can figure out just a good excuse to like redesign it a little bit, because she redesigns in the games anyways. So
Yep.
I know that this show doesn't have a cheap budget by any means, but I imagine with it already having been with a second season already signed off on, I imagine that they will be able to provide more funds to things like Cortana CGI. I think Jesse said it really well earlier while I'm here. I think Jesse said it really well earlier that these sets that they're in are incredibly expensive, very beautifully well-dressed sets that are just accentuated by CG, and hopefully something similar can happen with Cortana in maybe the next season.
Hey, is she bluer than she was in the trailer?
It seems that way, right? Especially in this still that Jesse has up on screen right now.
It feels like
she
that to me,
definitely seems a little bit more blue.
Yeah.
It also was a very blue room, so you don't know.
Fair.
Hey, these armor pieces in the background, were those just like references to something? I had a feeling they were, but I wasn't sure.
Which one?
Like in the still, for example, in Halsey's room, she has like various Mark armor suits in the back of Mjolnir.
Mm-hmm.
The one on the left definitely still looks like it's the same armor that Chief is wearing in the show.
Hmm.
The one on the right is the one that like doesn't land well for me. Not that it looks bad. I don't think it looks bad. I just can't quite pinpoint what it's supposed to look like. If it's meant to be like a Mark V equivalent, or if it's, something's supposed to just be like a random suit of Mjolnir armor. But I definitely caught that too. Aarsal.
So overall, good feedback on Jen Taylor, right? And I thought the thing I'll say about Jen Taylor is, like she's obviously been part of the franchise for a long time. I thought she came a long way in Halo Infinite.
Oh, amazing!
Absolutely.
Like for some reason, to me, that was the biggest. I mean, 4 she had some more parts. 5 they messed that up with the writing, but in Infinite, I thought she did a really good job, and I thought she can add a combination of some levity and other things, just some interesting interactions long term. So yeah, I'm happy with that for sure. What were you going to say, Forebear? I saw you open your mouth.
I personally, I don't think that the games have ever done Jen Taylor's Cortana justice. Period. Jen Taylor's a fantastic actress. She has been for 25 years. No, I think Infinite absolutely nails it. Just leading up to Infinite, like you mentioned, like even Halo 4, which is supposed to be this very emotionally evocative title, like just doesn't land in a lot of places for her. And I think that it probably came down to direction. It probably came down to writing. But like Jen Taylor is amazing. Like she deserves all the praise that she's getting for the show, and then her performance in Infinite, Abe, like you said.
All right, so I'm going to go, because we got a lot of stuff to cover today, so I'm probably going to go a little bit shorter on this. Does anybody is there anything that you guys want to touch on before we do the round table scores?
I want to see more of the Hunter. Damn it, we only got his legs, and then we saw his arms.
That pissed me off there too. So thanks for bringing that up.
It's probably they've shown jackals, they've shown grunts in the trailer. I know we'll end up seeing everything. I gotta imagine. They save a lot of that stuff and a lot of that CGI for more battle scenes, which we'll probably get another couple throughout the year. I do think a lot of the show right now is building strife outside of battle scenes, because battle scenes can be fatiguing in TV if you do them too often, and they can be very expensive. So I know people want more action, but I think it will still be limited.
An episode that has little action but is still a decent episode is super exciting to me, because to me it tells me they're budgeting that the action budget for later episodes. So it's, if you can put an entire episode without any real action or budget put towards there and still keep it pretty decent and interesting, that's like, damn, they did that job well, because the next couple episodes will be pretty cool, is what I feel.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, like, again, I always like to go to Game of Thrones, because for a while it was my favorite show, then it just was the worst, like the catastrophe.
At least the books have finished. Oh,
I can't even
wait.
I mean, like,
it's the type of show you just felt like you had to finish because you've already spent 5 damn years
right.
Shit.
and I feel like it just made it taste worse and worse. But like when they started off that show, they did have a lower budget, remember? Like, and they did.
Yep.
because I read the books before the show, and I was expecting some big scenes that never
Yep.
popped in the first couple of seasons, but they stayed along the story pretty well despite that, and they really just developed the characters. They kind of talked through what happened, and it was very interesting despite the lack of action. It was the more Michael Bay it got, the worse the show got, and so I guess I'm aware of that. And just, I can understand, wanting a little bit more action. I do want to see a few more people get, exploded in half, through the show. But right now, I don't have any problem with what they're doing in terms of leading into that. You build up to the action scene, you have it, then you kind of build up to it, right? Like that shouldn't be the point of the show. I think if it gets to that point where it is the point of the show, then that's a lot of times when these things go backwards, but because, you can only take so much before it gets, like you said, fatiguing.
I think that this show, I know I said it when we did the spoiler cast for the first episode, but like this is following what I have seen from the very little amount of it that I've seen. But like, again, every episode kind of reiterates to me that this is following the Star Trek formula in a lot of ways. I don't have any problem with it. I never really got into Star Trek, but like I'm enjoying the more, the last couple of episodes with less action that are just like very much just setting up the universe, taking us through like the emotional roller coaster that is existing in a universe where there are Halo rings. Very, very interesting stuff. I'm super excited to see kind of where the show goes in regards to the world that it's been building up and see just how gray it gets.
Yeah.
All right. So good thoughts all around. Anybody else want to cover anything that you really, really wanted to cover that we didn't get to? Otherwise, I'm just going to go around and get you guys the scores.
One thing I'll mention really quick was was pretty cool was, that scene where he's going around Reach, Chief. I feel like I might be jumping the gun here, but I feel like that was to help set up the eventual destruction of this entire area coming in, right? Like, I'm not the only one who thought that, right? But no, I feel like it might not be this season, though. I have a feeling, which kind of sucks, but hey, it's cool. I'll wait.
I have a feeling it's going to be the finale. They're going to glass Reach, and
it'll be Chief's fault somehow.
Yeah,
so cool.
Right. Yeah.
Well, not that part, but the glassing part would be pretty cool.
It's gonna be the you'll know when he makes a friend on Reach, then you know the whole thing's gonna blow up, right? That's how those shows.
Well, he met the dog, so.
It's when he really, really likes somebody, that's when it's going to happen. All right, so let's go around. Sorry, that's a tropey thing. Hopefully they don't do it. Let's go around and get scores. I'll just kind of start at the top of the panel here that I'm looking at it. Mr. Daniel, go ahead. What was your overall thoughts?
I'd probably give it an 8. I mean, I think it was a little bit more consistent than the first and second episodes. There were still obviously things that I complained about, but overall, I think they set up a lot of the dynamics between the characters pretty well. I still, as somebody who did watch like all the original 3 seasons of Star Trek and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, I am still not entirely sure why people keep saying it's following a Star Trek template, but
the Star Trek Discovery template, because that show focuses on season-long arcs in a way where all the other Star Trek shows are like a story of the week. Yeah,
right, exactly.
And like even the new one, New Worlds,
seen...
that's coming out is because people wanted them to go back to that weekly format.
Okay, I haven't seen Discovery, so I can attest to that. But like,
Discovery's all right, but yeah, it's arcs, all about the long story arcs.
Just for my own like clarification, when I say the Star Trek formula, I do mean this very large kind of political world that they're setting up, rather than it just being like action scene, and then a little bit of dialogue interspersed,
like the movies. You could say.
Right, like I honestly, like, again, I haven't watched like a ton of Star Trek, but the more like the comparisons that are made between like Star Trek and Star Wars, where
the classic show was all about it was like a politics and
anthropology
show. Yeah,
it was anthropology in space. Yeah, it was anthropology set in this utopian society where they actually gave a shit about equality and ensuring that everybody had equal rights and means, and so
all right. So Jesse, since you jumped in there, I'm just going to go out of order because I just noticed I am out of order anyways from what I'm looking at. I was like, oh wait, I messed that up. All right, so Jesse, your score, and then also we had a question about pacing from Sappho. So,
in part of because of the pacing, I've quite enjoyed it, even though they're pretty long episodes. They don't feel long, and I am still sad when they end. I'm not like, okay, that's enough for now. Because of that, like. Even in scenes where I'm not super thrilled, like with some of them, they're normally pretty quick. And so I'd end up going with an 8 again, I think. Okay,
pretty good. Soul, how about you?
Yep, pacing-wise, to answer Sappho's question, I like it. I mentioned earlier, if an episode can be an entire episode without action and still keep my interest, then, hey, it did its job. In terms of scoring, I probably liked it as much as the first episode, so 7.5, personally.
Okay. Cool. And then Forebear?
Yeah, I mean, I just to repeat the same thing again. I think pacing is fine. I think it definitely could be better, but I think anticipating that the third episode of this video game adaptation television series would be perfect is hilarious. I think that this is great for what it is. I think 7.5.
Okay.
Solid.
And then that leaves me. So you always save the worst for last. No, Man had said this might be a dystopian Star Trek. I almost feel like, does anybody else feel like this has like a cyberpunky kind of tone to it, even though it's not?
I'm uncomfortable with how often they feel like they need to kill children so far.
Yeah.
3 episodes in, almost as many like child killings.
Halsey killed how many in one fell swoop?
Well, it seems to be a theme of the show.
If you load up the news right now, quite often you're seeing a lot of things about kids getting killed, so not shying away from it isn't inaccurate, sadly.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
it's just... I don't know.
You didn't enjoy watching him get beat to death with a baton?
Not really. I really
he
also
earned it. He wanted to not die.
I don't know who this kid was, but his eyes... When he was like laying there still, I was like, Jesus Christ, we get it. He's dead.
Yeah.
That one didn't work as well as the Elites one, I thought.
It does feel like, for me, it feels like it kind of has I know it's not cyberpunk at all, but it has a little bit of that sort of dark tone where, but instead of a corporation, you have like a military or whatever. It seems like is in control of things, but I don't know. It does.
It's the grind hidden behind that facade of cleanness, right?
Yeah, it's like you got all the everybody who's rich and everybody who's powerful living a good life is an asshole, and then there's everybody else. And that's kind of that just feels like most cyberpunk movies I watch. But I will say, like I said, I was mixed. A couple of things that I really liked better than any of the episodes so far. The actress for Halsey has really grown on me. I think that. Her scene with her clone was really good, and Jen Taylor being in there was the most Halo thing for me. So like those are my highs, and I mentioned all my lows. I won't go back through those again, but I average out to about a 7. So I say as a panel, what do you think? We're about a 7.5 for this one, right?
I'm really good at math, so I think we average out to about a 13.
Oh, okay. Well, because you don't do math.
Math are hard.
I don't remember if it was this episode or last episode that we got to meet Lord Hood.
Last episode.
It was last episode.
Last episode.
2 seconds. Not a fan of him in this, but I'm sure that'll change if we get to see him more often.
Yeah, we haven't seen
one big ship battle. I feel like the season will have one really big ship battle. It'll probably last like 20-30 minutes, and that's all we'll get of that. But that'll be interesting, I feel.
To be fair, the actor is the dude who was in the main character from 2001 Space Odyssey, if I recall correctly.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Was he?
Wow. Damn.
Wow.
That's cool.
I did really quick. I did have to throw out a correction because I mentioned this the other day. Per my normally great memory on actors, it was not John Hurt that was regret. Is Michael Wincott, the guy who was in Count of Monte Cristo and he was in Alien Resurrection. He just sounds, when he's playing that role, he sounds a lot like John Hurt. So anyway, yeah.
All right.
Fun stuff.
All right. So, guys, we're going to move on. So, for everybody who's listening, we're going to continue to go. We're going to talk about the game next. So we're just going to call this now episode number 43 of the You Had Me at Halo podcast, and we're just going to go right into it. So everybody's cool. Everybody got to say what they wanted to about the show. So I think, like just to summarize it, I think the show right now is in a place where I think for the most part we still see a lot of opportunity. Nobody's super low on it. Nobody's like super duper high yet, but it's but we're all interested. So that's
I look forward to Thursdays.
Yeah,
You know what
I do, and I came away still interested. I still want to see what's going to happen.
Mhm.
So even if we weren't doing this, I would want to see what's going to happen. All right, so let's move on to the game stuff now. So the last couple of weeks, we've had a few significant drops of information, a lot of reading to do, and aside from that, they finally they started to advertise season 2. And we got a new big mode that people are talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with last week, the drop that they threw out there. I think it released a few minutes before we went live. And I don't know about you. I did not memorize everything that was there. And we didn't really delve too far into it. So what I want to just do is go around and see, like, is there specifically one thing that really stood out to you from last week's release that you want to focus on today? So let me start with you. I know you really talked about the Mangler already, but was there anything else you wanted to kind of go into, or you just want to touch on that again?
Give me 1 second. Sorry. Could you give
I've
me
got it up right
else?
here. A global melee damage decrease of 10% on all weapons will require the Mangler to land 2 shots and a beatdown for a kill.
Yep. Yeah. That was it's actually funny. Speaking of that change, I read that change and I'm like, well, this is nice. This is what people wanted, right? Or at least the people that play the game. And then I checked the online discourse behind it, and people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they're nerfing this. Oh, this wasn't
Why
that
do you
bad."
always stop checking the online discourse around this game? It is the worst thing imaginable.
And it's like, I've cheesed with the Mangler, and it's not fun waiting in a room, letting someone to get. Okay, it's fun like the first few times, but then eventually it becomes like, okay, this is kind of boring now. We're waiting, like for example, I was playing Mangler SWAT, and people were literally camping. Mangler SWAT, what? What? Why are you camping in Mangler SWAT? What is happening? For reference, but no, that wouldn't be the one that I was focusing on. In fact, I think that the biggest change, assuming it works, is the melee fights. They're making it more consistent, less whiffing when like 2 people melee each other, which I feel like will really help the game feel a lot better. Because right now, for example, when it goes to internally, I feel like if I'm in a melee range to someone, I kind of screwed up. I shouldn't have been in here in the first place anyways, right? Because it's kind of unreliable. Not exactly sure if who'll land the right hit, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And if they can really fix that and make it feel a lot better, then that's kind of a big change no one's talking about.
Yeah. And I think that anything performance related is super underrated, right? Like I know we talk about the content a lot, and that's important, obviously, but the stuff like the desyncs, the performance issues, like the shots not registering, get killed around walls when you have low ping, like that's all the big stuff that and even for people that don't like necessarily know what's going on, they just know something doesn't feel right? Like you could be a casual and be like, I don't get this. I don't get why it's not working. And then you kind of walk away from it for that reason. So I still think that is the number one thing. And I'm glad they call themselves out, right? They talked about all that stuff. They talked about the desync. They talked about all those examples I just mentioned in that update is things that they're working on. So I am hopeful in that. What about you, Forebear? Like what was on, did you catch anything that really stood out to you?
Yeah, from last week's, right? I think the friend or foe stuff, the IFF recognition is exciting. I know that there's a lot of people in the community who aren't a huge fan of the outlines and would rather just have tags above people's heads. I think that this is a step in that direction. I think it'd be interesting to see kind of how they end up working that system out. But specifically what is talked about in the blog is opacity and thickness of the outlines. I think that as long as the thickness that we currently have in the game, like the current settings that exist in Infinite, I think as long as those are, middle of the road, kind of, as in it can get more intense or significantly less intense than it is right now, I think that people are going to be happy with this change. And is something that I'm personally looking forward to. I think I think that there should be this option. I think that this is something that should have been in the game day one. I would much prefer, instead of having outlines, have enemy gamer tags above everyone's heads instead.
Yep. No, it's a good call out. Daniel, how about you?
I mean, pretty much everything for the most part was fantastic. I mean, this was I think I printed a PDF just so I could read it on a little bit easier. And it's like 11 pages. There's so much here, and almost everything comes out as, hey, we hear you guys and we're listening. And it's not necessarily listening to that vocal toxic discourse like we tend to find, but like things like buffing the Banshee, both in terms of its agility, its damage that its weapons do. Because right now the Banshee is it's paper. You destroy it and no shots at all. To things like weapon racks finally being symmetrical in BTB. There's tons of stuff. The IFF stuff, the audio issues that people were having, and like finding out that it's actually not a problem with Halo. Like they did so much research to determine that, hey, it's not actually a problem with our sound mixing. It's actually only happening with specific hardware that are specifically running things like Dolby Atmos or DTSX, and they shouldn't be, right? So like they've put in a ton of work that I think should be commended, especially after you hear a lot about how, like, despite the fact that we've had a year plus of them being super transparent, you have people complaining that they don't hear for 2 or 3 weeks that, hey, what are you guys doing, right? And it's like, this is clearly the case where they didn't want to release they didn't want to piecemeal and make promises when they didn't know what would happen. This is a full like review of every bit of feedback that they've gotten. That said, I don't like their answer for crossplay.
I think that was one of the negatives that stuck out.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that I was happy that they at least acknowledged it. Like they didn't just pretend like they didn't hear it, but they acknowledged it and they didn't give me the answer I was hoping for. So.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's there's a couple like that too, where it's just like, I can understand your justification, but it also stands in direct opposition to everything other Xbox first party studios have done for 3+ years, and it is frustrating because I don't care how many games, how many times have we seen, and not even just on Halo, but across the board, PC players have mods, have all kinds of hacks that just completely lopside the game. And I don't know. I just think it's great for me to be able to play with my PC friends when I want to, but I should be able to make that choice. So of all the things, the few things that I said I had issues with, that was the biggest.
Yeah, and I would even build on that it's not even just about the cheaters either.
Right.
I think it's
about consistency and performance too.
Yeah, and depending on your play style, like they even acknowledge it. They said keyboard and mouse favors you in some instances, and controller does in others. And they said that PC players feel like us console players get the advantage because obviously we have a higher what is it, auto aim or aim assist or whatever, and then then the feedback on the flip side of that is for console guys is the PC players have that advantage, and I think it depends on how you play. So and I hear the feedback and people are like, well, you can just play this style and you'll have the advantage over people with a better aim, and it's like, but that's not the way I like to play the game.
Right.
Like if you are somebody that's always been in the console space and you've always been the sniper on the team, now suddenly you're playing with PC guys. It's like, okay, no, I got to do more run and gun to even out the controls, and I'm not going to pick up the sniper, and that might affect the way you like to play. And so that's, I think, where the issue comes in. It's like if you like precision, long range weapons, things like that, you're going to be better with the mouse and keyboard, no matter what. I think if you're good with that, you're always going to have that advantage. And if you like to run around a lot and slide and move and like you do have a little bit, sometimes that's more intuitive for the average person on a controller. So I and that maybe not be fair for PC guys who want to master that movement with the mouse and keyboard. So I do agree with you. I think I hope down the road, and maybe that happens as they expand the base, You know,
Yeah,
that
and
could be
things like
something.
ranked not even having the option is just mind-boggling to me. Like, there's again, and I don't want to sound like I'm just complaining because I am super tired, and I'm sure it comes across that way. But because there's a lot to love here, in both, especially the newest drop. But like not having a choice in ranked of all, like, I personally, I think it should be a choice regardless, because you do get that choice
Mhm.
just about every other first party game that has crossplay as an option. But it's just, yeah, it's mind boggling.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's a good call out. What about you? Let's see, who did I not call on yet? I got did Soul's taking a
Jesse.
timeout. Oh, Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't really play that much Halo multiplayer, never have. The one thing
Okay.
that I do like is Big Team Battle, and this Jeff Steitzer's voice is returning to call out player earned medals.
Did you see that?
Mhm.
I don't know if it's on TikTok or whatever, but he was just doing like all the ridiculous call outs.
Yeah,
Not even Halo.
people pay him on Cameo, I think, and as long as it's nothing bad, he'll say it. I heard a streamer that paid him to say "fart now," so you can get his voice saying that.
He's super open to doing like voice packages for people's streams and stuff, and then he'll ask you to send him links to all of your stuff so that he can see his work being used. He's super cool guy. Super cool.
Oh
guy.
man,
Really? All right, we're reaching out, guys, after the show, because we need something. We need something to liven up my clunky introductions, you guys. So, anyways, that's we'll talk about that later. So, as somebody who does play a shit ton of multiplayer, I won't get into it, but the thing that
Abe, I've been playing for almost a week now, and I never see you on. So I think you're full of shit.
he just appears offline like I do.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with everybody. So if you play Halo, you're listening to the show, you just want to find some people to play with, and I don't mind whether you're good or not. Like, it doesn't, like, just as long as you're cool. But the thing I find
How
is that I got a lot
of you.
But no, here's the thing. I got people on my friends list, groups of people, and some of them just don't like each other. So like if I'm in with one group, it's like, all right, I'm not going to accept, I'm not going to combine the groups and deal with that drama. So I just I join a group and then I go disappear for a little bit. So that's why that is. So just message me if you want to play some Halo or if you're on, because I'm probably there. I'm, same with your forebear. I'm probably behind the scenes playing with some assholes.
If I'm ever appear online, just send an invite, no problem. That means I'm ready to play. You'll never see me appear online, mind you, but if I am.
Now, so did I call you out already?
I was the first person. I talked about
that's right. Okay, good. Yeah, and I think I'm pretty much in line with you. For me, it's all about performance first. If they get that stuff, everything else foundationally about this game is, to me, is the best playing Halo, but it does have performance things that, like, I even got on the other day. I'm like, this is freaking amazing. I took a couple weeks off to play Elden Ring, and it's like I'm back on, and then all of a sudden I had the desync thing again. I'm like, then that sound like the Reddit, right? Like, so that's the thing they need to focus on. But I think that my general takeaway from this, the best part of this is that more than anything is that they've acknowledged all the feedback, even if they're not going to, even if they feel like at this time they're not going to accommodate, like region filters. It's like, I still don't fully understand that, but I maybe they don't have enough population or something right now. But as long as they continue to talk about it, I think over time, I keep saying it, long term, if they keep having the discussions and they keep the communication open, I'm very bullish about the future of where this game's going to go, regardless of maybe the struggles they have, right now. So
I think that's a lot of why we're not seeing opt-out crossplay right now. I don't think that this game's population is hurting as bad as like just looking at the Steam numbers makes it seem like it might be. But
what about the Twitch numbers? Those are even lower.
But PC players having a lower population pool is probably affecting their want to implement an opt-out crossplay. Imagine like you have like this pure experience on console where there are no mods, there are no hacking, there is no disparity between control inputs, but then you have like a smaller player population on PC like me, who only plays on PC, and like, cool, I guess I'll play with all of the hackers by myself then, and like me and the 25 other guys on PC that are playing the game legitimately, we'll just deal with it, I guess. But no, I'm sure that once the game is in a better place, in I imagine the fairly near future, that opt-in, opt-out crossplay will totally be a thing.
Yeah,
I think the fans just need to complain about it long enough for them to just buckle under the pressure of it.
Well, no, actually, Forebear, you bring up some good points, and we know the console population's still there. I mean, it's still like
top 10 most played Xbox titles, isn't it?
It's kind of on the
number 11.
Number 11 on
Yeah,
US, number 12 in Canada. Number 5
like
in
that's
Pakistan.
solid.
Yeah, it's still a lot of people, but on the PC they've had more performance issues. The PC players, and the PC base is just a different animal in general. You know, they'll just go back to playing the battle royales. So
there was a big part of this blog post that talked about PC performance. They said they had a bunch of fixes in the pipeline, and they'll all release in season 1, which is cool, which is nice. Yeah. And speaking to my brother who plays PC every day, he's like, it's not as bad as it was at launch. Like a few months later, it's getting much better.
Yeah,
like if you're still crashing 5 times a day, something's wrong on your end.
If you're still crashing 5 times a day, take your HD files out of the game, like your textures, via Steam or Microsoft. Like it fixed my problems.
Okay, yeah, and so that is a good point though, Forebear, because I think that's the things that we don't like think about that much. But it's not just that. It's not just like, oh, it's still top 10. There's a base. Like there's no excuse. The other thing too, and I heard this from some of the, listening to some people that are very competitive. They're high ranked. The higher rank you go, the smaller that population pool gets. So if you're a PC guy and you're not cheating and you're highly ranked, it gets difficult.
I mean, imagine like people like Mint Blitz, who lives in Australia. Like he has at times, and not necessarily just in Halo Infinite, but in general, it just has longer queue times than the average like American player, for example. Just because there's a lower pool to choose from. Now put you on PC with opt-out crossplay. Now put you up in like top 20 percentile of ranked. Like you're spending minutes waiting for a match, and that has to suck.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, you just use a controller, right? Like no.
Like right now, now, absolutely. If you are good enough, I've been playing on mouse and keyboard almost exclusively for like 2.5 years now. It is not like riding a bike. I cannot play. It's like I'm a toddler again. Using like, I don't know how to use this thing.
That's why keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, it's the same thing. 20 years ago, like right before the OG Xbox, I was a PC gamer. Like that's how I played. That's how I played.
PC gaming's changed a lot since then too.
StarCraft.
Yeah, I played all my first person shooters were on the PC. I moved over. I got used to the controller. So I actually, got a PC that was capable of playing games just like 2 years ago. I was like, oh, they had the Half-Life remake. I'm like, I'm going to jump back into this and like see it again, because that was the game that made me a first person shooter fan, right? Like Half-Life on the PC way back in the day. And I was like, I couldn't even freaking like, I don't know, man. I felt like I was playing with my feet. I couldn't do anything in the damn game. It was awful. So I can Forebear. I hear what you're saying. I think that we take it for granted. You think you can just jump back and forth if you haven't been doing it for a while. Yeah, it takes a while. It doesn't come naturally.
Or
and I don't know that.
And you do them both at the same time, because I've been jumping between games that just work better with a controller, like Batman. But then playing things with a mouse and sort of mixing it up, and that works pretty well.
I've been playing Elden Ring with a controller. Like that game is so not made to be played on a mouse and keyboard. It's not even funny. Even the menu is in controller button layout.
Yeah. I was gonna say I have a hard enough time jumping between Sekiro and Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
Or Dark Souls 3, because jump is different. It's a different damn button on 2 of the 3 of those games.
Yeah.
And like all the mechanics, it's frustrating.
What did you say? Did you say Sekiro?
Yeah, man.
No, you said it differently.
Sekiro. It's Japanese.
The correct way is everything stays flat. There's no emphasis on different syllables.
Yeah, it's 3 hiragana.
Well, all right. Well, I just learned something.
Get fucked, Abe. Boom. That's where you get to end with
Boom,
that.
roasted.
Learn Japanese, man.
Oh man! All right, guys. So let's
I would
move on.
love to talk about the amazing season 1 live game outcome report that we got, guys. I think there's some really cool stuff in there.
All right, go on, keep going.
Legitimately. So
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that was a good
the TLDR is much like the last week's season 1 outcome. Like, they are listening to a ton of the feedback that the community has given them. They're at the very least doing the same thing that they've done basically since the flights, which is like, hey, here's feedback, here's what we're doing about it, here's feedback, here's what we're not doing about it, and then here's feedback, and here's like aspirational goals for a thing. Like, the biggest things, I'm gonna hit their TLDR that they included in the post. Bundles will have more consistent value across different offerings in the shop. I think that's awesome. I have been earning Microsoft points because I use Bing with work, so I just logged into my own personal account, and I'm constantly racking up Microsoft points. So I bought the Zvezda set yesterday with some of my free points that I've gotten from that, and that's super cool. The cooler thing would obviously be for them to kind of start breaking up those bundles a little bit, and to like they said in the blog here, to present more consistent value across those bundles. Whereas we've seen things that are priced at $15, basically 1,500 credits across the board, and it'll be stuff like the Zvezda set, which is chest, arms, shader, helmet, all of that fun stuff, and then something that's priced similarly, and it's half of the amount of content that you get out of that. So that's something that I think is super cool with the shop.
Yeah, and like, speaking of the shop, they said they were gonna, and I didn't expect them to do this actually. So when I read it, I was really happily surprised that they're planning on allowing you to break down kits. That's actually really cool, because
that adds more value, right? Like, just to the value point.
Once that adds,
Yeah,
I think I might get a couple of the competitive kits, because they look really nice. I just don't want to always have that. You know what I mean?
I think it's awesome. I think a natural progression for some of the stuff that we'll mention in a minute would be breaking up coatings as well. I don't anticipate that happening even within the next year, but I feel like this is kind of going to eventually get us in that region where, like, hey, my arm is this coating, my chest is this coating.
Oh, that's interesting.
More of that kind of kit breakdown stuff.
I could see them allowing you to select the color for the coatings. That I could see, but
totally.
Yeah, and that customization can add a whole different element, right? Because right now, I don't know. I'll just be candid with you. I've never been much of the dress up my Spartan kind of person. My Spartan in Halo 5, after 2,000 hours of playing it, still looks like I just started the game.
Abe, the fashion game is the end game, man.
So I've never been that guy, but I will say that, if you make it really interesting, allow me to be a little creative with it, like, hey, maybe I want to create something that nobody else is doing, right? Or take mix and match some ideas, from the creativity standpoint, I might be more interested in messing around with it, So, I mean, I earned my stuff, and I changed my from whatever the gray, the starter, whatever the heck you are in this, I changed out of that outfit. But other than that, I haven't changed it too much. But I think as they get more granular with some of the options, it just invites people who like to be creative, right? And just like to
100%.
tinker. So that's some good stuff. What other things did you guys like really stuck out to you on this last update?
So go ahead. Sorry.
Really quick. So they're making some much needed changes to the both the free and paid track for the battle pass, and that they're removing some of the double XP and whatever the other bonus that they put in there is, so that you're actually getting more customization items, which is much needed. And that's
Daniel, you don't want challenge swaps?
No, I'm good. I have like 70, and then like the ability, Microsoft has really, we saw this with ESO and 76, but they've really pushed all their first party titles to have that have like in-game transactions, to have a means to earn that credit, that currency in game. And they specifically say that in season 2 you're going to be able to get 1,000 credits within the premium pass. And then of course the other biggest thing for me is the fact that you are able to use more pieces throughout different cores, and so like it's not going to apply to everything. And they said that they're going to continue working on expanding it beyond the initial offering. So it's going to be kind of iterative.
If you want, we can read the exact quote because it's pretty expansive. It covers a lot.
Yeah. So it says enabling customization across different armor cores has been the largest point of feedback when it comes to customization. We agree that there is room to have better customization by lifting core restrictions where possible. For right now, we're pursuing options that will allow players to use certain customization items on different cores. Due to the way that the core system was initially built, getting items to work on various cores will take time, and it may not even be possible for all items, and will likely require us to do it piece by piece. As we investigate what expanding the cross-core customizations would require from a tech perspective, our initial focus is on enabling many helmets, visors, and armor coatings across different cores as possible. In short, our goal is that we will be able to incrementally moving to a model that has coatings and visors working across all cores, with helmets and chest gear working across cannon cores as our first focus changes to make in the system. So it's clear that they've kind of built the customization system. There's going to be an engine that it's running in there that defines what pieces can go with what due to rigging, lighting, all that kind of stuff, most likely. And so they're essentially kind of rewriting it on the fly to make it more expansive. But they're also talking about doing similar with those kits, like Aarsal was talking with breaking down the kits. So that was the biggest takeaway for me as somebody who does like the customization, but I also have had the same thing for 2 months, because you don't really get the ability to mix and match like we were kind of originally promised. I think
like it's a really big change. I guess it might not seem that way, but for example, so many times I'm going through my armor pieces and I'm like, man, I love the the Mark 7 coatings, but I like the Mark 5 armor better, right? I wish I could move those coatings around. Like I use the Gundam coating almost exclusively when I have the Mark 7. I'd love to be able to use that with the Fiesta armor or the other armors. And I didn't think they do coatings, to be honest. I thought they were going to do just visors and like maybe things like knee pads and like wrist things. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because coatings they sell in the store, right? Like for example, the Iron Man coating, it's 3 different coatings per the thing. So by making coatings work across cores, in a sense, they're lowering the value of their own bundles, which is interesting because they're going to need to increase the value somehow to still entice people to buy them.
Well, you know what it makes me wonder, because there's been the assumption, this was a business decision, and part of it probably was, but I also wonder if it was like, because to what you said, Daniel, they initially talked about having it like this, right? That they're talking about they're eventually going to have, and maybe in the prioritization leading up to Halo, they're just like, guys, like we're just going to put this. We're not going to announce that we're putting this on the shelf because it'd be one more thing, but it's just not going to be ready. Like this system's just not ready, so we're going to simplify it and put it out this way, back to it. That's my impression. Now, it's a theory. It's could be wrong, but the fact that they're acknowledging it and they're saying, hey, it's still going to take us some more time, makes me think that just like with co-op, it was one of those things, hey, we're going to focus on these things for the November and December, or the December launch, and everything else is getting moved back. And this was probably one of those things that was quietly, unofficially kind of pushed back, as I thought. But Forbear, you're going to say something on that.
I lost it.
Oh,
Totally
sorry.
No. That's okay. I need to be better about not interrupting you guys.
Just interrupt me. It's fine. Usually the show's better when people interrupt me.
Sorry.
I think another important thing that gets passed over because it's not in the TLDR is stuff like the Winter Contingency, like mini event that they had for the holidays, was incredibly confusing. I think we even talked about it at the time, that like it was difficult to navigate and you never knew exactly what you were working on. But I think all of this really does lead to the idea, like, hey, we did, like you said, we came out swinging, trying a bunch of different stuff. We knew some of it wasn't going to be like 100% well received. We knew that some of it would maybe work better as this versus that. Same thing with like the seasonal modes and the way that they're adapting that, so that like, they are going to stick around. We didn't think you guys would love it, but we figured we'd try it and see what would happen. it's cool that like even something as little as the winter contingency event, which I'd completely forgotten about before I read about it again in this blog. They're like, yeah, we're gonna utilize like the event pass feature that we use for the other events. That way you can keep track of stuff if we do another one of these smaller like seasonal events.
Right.
Yep.
And I think like every little piece of this, like the ultimate rewards for the weekly challenge grind being more consistently high value cosmetics.
Got the same emblem 3 times
coatings
in a row.
Dude, like here's the thing. I feel so bad for these guys because I feel like the content that they had laid out for season 1 for everything, including the store and the ultimate rewards and all of it, was built for a 3-month-long season. And they were like, sorry guys, we're gonna have to stretch this one out a little bit.
But admittingly, last week and this week's ultimate rewards, not bad. Last week had a pretty cool chest piece for the 10 ray armor. That I actually ended up grinding it just Monday night. I'm like, holy crap, I want this. And I played for like 4 hours straight, and then I got it. I was like, thank you. And this week is like a brass knuckles charm. Yeah. So it's not the worst, but it's not bad. I'll probably go for it.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds a little bit. Yeah, that the emblem. I was just expecting some stupid emblem that I was never gonna like. Nobody's ever gonna see.
And no more Killjoy. No more Killjoy. That was. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the last thing that's worth mentioning from this blog post is for all of the badass players out there that grinded their tails off to 152 in Halo 5 will get the Watchdog coding that they were promised back in 2020. Rather than it looking identical to the Redshift. So they said to just kind of keep an eye out for that they'll be updating that.
You know, I never did get that level. You know how many hours it takes to get to 152?
It's insane.
more than 2,000. So
you have anything?
Jesse, do you have anything you wanted to say about the blog?
I mean, it's cool that they're adding in the currency. I still see people saying, "Oh, it's not as much as others." And it's like, "Oh, yeah, because it never fucking expires."
Yep.
That's a huge difference. You do not have to get it in 3 months. You can get it in 3 years if you feel like.
It's enough to buy another season pass.
Yep.
Yeah. If you don't buy a cosmetic, you literally can buy one season pass, get all those cosmetics, buy the next season pass for free. Get all those cosmetics.
I don't think people understand
forever.
Yeah. People don't understand how it's going to be that like a year, 2 years from now, you're going to come into Halo Infinite and you're going to see, well, I can pick whatever battle pass I want to work on. Like that is very new in this GAS service.
The only other game that did that? Marvel's Avengers, oddly enough.
Really?
Every single one of those season passes you got the first 4 for free when you bought the game. The base 4 characters. You play them, you earn enough to buy the ones that they added in. Like 5 times over. It was actually really good.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I was having a discussion online where someone, I know. But anyways, someone was like, so you buy it once and you get it like $10 purchase and you can pay them all. And someone's like, oh yeah, well, I paid $0 and I got all this stuff in Halo 3. And I'm like, dude, you paid 60 USD. What are you talking about? $0? Where'd you, what?
And you factor in the rate of inflation too. You know what? So we're gonna have a Reddit intervention right after this. Daniel,
you see what I got a. Every once in a while, they send if you really push certain buttons, someone does that thing where it's like this person needs help, and then you get a message where it's like, hey, someone reported you as someone who needs help. And it's always kind of funny to see because it's like, yeah, I really got under someone's skin today for sure.
So the only other thing I thought that stood out to me that we didn't cover, and there's not a lot to cover yet, was the overall progression. I guess that's probably the thing I'm most interested in. I don't know why. I just like to see
Call of Duty brain.
Something. I just want to see something that says you played this for a long time. And I hopefully they get creative with the medals, or can rank those up, based on how many headshots you get and stuff like that. But they haven't said anything yet, so I am curious where they might go with that system. I'm assuming it's more than just a single number going up, but who knows at this point.
Yeah. They did say it'll come this year, so that's interesting. And for the per match EXP, sorry, I should say, based on performance.
Yeah.
Daniel, what were you trying to say, man? Did your mic come back on?
Yeah, finally. It was like, I don't even remember.
He was speaking like mid-sentences, mic mute.
I got into rage mode because I got this USB-C adapter to this Mac, and it's anyway. Continue.
All right,
Did
guys.
you
So
know, one thing I like, sorry, really quick, like small little changes, right? That they're clearly listening. I feel is the main takeaway from this blog post is, hey, even the tiny little complaints that you don't think anyone's paying attention to, they're paying attention to it. For example, the event challenges, they literally mention here that they're working on separating them from the main challenge pool. Something all of us wanted, right? But I didn't think they'd address it, and they did. So it's kind of, I think that's like my biggest takeaway from both these blog posts, where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, they're listening. It's taking time longer than it should. I agree. I don't think anyone will disagree with that, right?
right, no.
But
Austin
find that pace,
apparently
find that
is.
stride.
No. I have a tangent that I really didn't want to go on this week because I knew it was going to be a long episode. But like it reminds me of, I've been seeing, and I know everyone has been seeing a lot of discourse, especially more recently, not in the last 2 days, I guess, about like, oh, the game should have been delayed another year. And it's like, no, my dude, all of these things had to be learned with the game in the wild.
Yep.
There was no way, there was no amount of user research that could have been applied to this to make a lot of this stuff that the community has come around to either dogpile on or to celebrate. It would not have ever happened in QA. Not saying that QA isn't incredibly important and that those guys do amazing work. It's just that you can have a million QA testers do 1 hour's worth of work, and the first hour of the live game, you're going to outpace that tenfold. And
they understand that.
And
It's
sorry, Dan.
exactly why I keep reminding people, like, we see the same issues with Apex, with Battlefield, with Fortnite, name literally any game as a service game. And there's a reason that they all have similar issues. And it's not because they're not learning from each other, quote unquote. It's because, like you said, Austin, the amount of player feedback that you get in the first day alone eclipses any amount of QA work that you're going to get within the first 2-3 years. And again, that's not at all to diminish their work, because they're amazing, but it's just because the amount of people and from my personal experience, I launched a project, right? I worked 2 years on this bad boy, like ran through worked with UX experts, all that kind of stuff, ran through every possible like usage scenario, and by the time it got out of the door within the first week, I had feedback that was like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? I'm like, because I didn't even think about that. And that's the thing, like developers also aren't, even players aren't the same. Like I'm not the same as Austin. I'm not the same as half the people that bitch about shit online, right? So you're just going to get so much more feedback from the get-go than you can possibly get while you're in development. So by delaying the game a year, you would have just delayed the learnings for a year, so you would have launched it a year later and still gotten those changes a year later. Like that's just
I mean, I like one of the very first programs I ever made was a very simple 4-function calculator. I spent 2 hours on it and I've thought of everything you could possibly do to try to break a calculator. I'll send it to a buddy who was curious about that kind of stuff. I was like, hey, tell me if you can break this. And within 5 minutes, he texted me and said, oh, it's fucked. You just can't think of everything, no matter how many people are working on a thing. So
and like I will say for people listening and and friends in the community, because even when I'm online, people are like, why'd they release this unfinished? And I get it, right from a consumer standpoint. I guess your job isn't to understand all that stuff. And live service games do feel different than other games. But it's just the one thing that I kind of come back to is that they could have delayed it and had co-op in there, right, or whatever. But then you're still like you guys were saying, you would have delayed a lot of other things that could be a lot better. Like this game, really, a year from its launch could be feeling like a completely different thing. And they could have delayed that 6 months, had the co-op ready. Maybe would have had the Forge ready 3 months after that or something like that, and had it feeling more on a schedule. But then you're just kind of delaying a lot of these other things that could be a lot better. Not to mention some people actually like me still like playing it even in the state it's in. So there is two sides of that, right? And then the final thing, and we talked about this with Nick on the show, before the Jesse Storm sabotaged our show a week ago. Joseph Staten has been in the position. He started a few months before this game was supposed to initially launch. And obviously, you know, from what I've heard, when the new leads come in, they have different philosophies and stuff, and things do change. And so, you know, I think it's fair to give them, you know, some time before we go, oh, they need to change leadership again. It's like, this guy's like,
God.
like you barely have time to like get your passwords and stuff, you know.
I mean, like and like the amazing things that Joe Staten did in his time with the company, like the fact that Infinite's open world had no like fobs. Like fobs were not a thing that existed in the game before Joe Staten came. Like that's a huge component to this game. What was it before that? Like were you just like, good luck, dude? Like you figure it out.
Well, I think it was just it was probably a different structure that they didn't agree with.
Of course.
And that's kind of what I heard is like, you know, when they brought in different director or different leads, that every time somebody would change the direction. And so I think they got to ride that out. And I don't think that anybody can really judge the current leadership team, you know, yet. It's like, you know, give them at least a year after this game launches.
I mean, I'll judge them on releasing the best playing Halo I've played.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Straight up. Like it baffles my mind that people are calling for the heads of leadership, or they're like, the franchise should be given to someone else. I'm like, man, do you like Halo? Like straight up, like have you liked Halo for the last 10 years? Because if you haven't, move on. Straight up.
Have to remember that in fandom communities online, it's almost always going to be overwhelmingly negative. So
yes,
I mean, hashtag Halo 2 isn't actually a sequel to Halo CE. You know, like, where's my Halo CE 2, Bungie?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. So, like on that note, so let's kind of move this forward because I know we're going to come up on the two hours here soon.
Oof.
I did see a change in tone, and I would say the community is not always negative. I would say the community is very reactive to the moment.
Well, the vocal, I would say that like the vocal online participants are I feel like more toxic than not. But like there are absolutely pockets of community where people are just like jazzed that they're playing a new Halo game.
Like us.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So we got to see.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so we got to see some of season 2. I don't know. People, at least on my list, were kind of jazzed about what they saw and were, you know, they're like, hey, I'm ready to jump back in next month or what, you know, when this comes out. And this looks better than what I thought it was going to be based off of what they were saying. You know, it sounded like season 2 was going to be, you know,
it's almost like they're underplaying what's being released, right? In a way where it's like
under promise and over deliver.
Under promising. At the same time, we know exactly what's coming, right? People are like, oh, does it have new content? Yes, 2 maps, 3 game modes, blah, 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 that kind of thing, right? But on paper, it sounds like, oh my God, only 2 maps. But when you see the trailer, hey, this map looks a lot of fun. That map looks a lot of fun. Is that a giant laser? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I always remind people that talk about Fortnite and Apex and all that kind of stuff. How many months do you play literally the same singular map?
Right.
Years from in league.
Well, I play one map if there was a battle royale, Daniel.
It's not the same because it's bigger.
Yes. You got like 7 maps on one map, Daniel. I will say, I think if we're playing in the spirit of fairness, I think Joseph Staten's follow-up tweet to him sharing the trailer I think does overpromise a little bit with him saying like this is only a teaser trailer, and like 100% it is, but he says more to come throughout the month. Buckle up. I feel like this is teasing that there's way more coming than what we see in this teaser trailer, and if I'm being honest, I feel like we got a glimpse at least a little bit of everything coming in season 2 in this trailer. Not saying that we literally saw everything. We haven't seen all the new story developments, which that alone, it looks super interesting. I'm super stoked about that. The new map the new arena map looks cool. The new big team battle map looks cool. The new like last man standing mode that we haven't talked about yet looks cool.
Yeah, talk about that, guys. So explain what we think that is.
Wait, so the leaked mode?
Yeah.
Endgame, right?
It's cool. 24 player battle royale on big team battle maps.
Really?
Yes.
Oh dang! For some reason in my head I thought it was
the reason why people are able to find it. Well, so another thing that exists in the game right now, or not exists in the game, but like is buried under code. But the reason people were able to come across it was because after the update that was pushed last week that included like the audio changes to player footsteps and things like that make the game a little bit more easy to hear on standard equipment. Includes a file that you can only look at offline and is a BTB mode that is last player standing or last Spartan standing. So it looks like it's a 24-player elimination mode where you play on a big team battle map, and there is, just like attrition had this season, there is a ring that progressively gets smaller. It looks like a testing ground, a very interesting one at that, for a potential BR mode, or who knows what other cool stuff 343 might be working on right now. But yeah, that's what Last Man Standing supposedly is a big team battle free for all elimination mode.
And it has a different spin too, though, right? Because normally, here's the reason I don't like battle royales, and I didn't know some of our audience may. So sorry if I offend you, but I guess I just don't have I don't have the attention span. And that whole like I'm going to go hide out and sit here under this whatever, like in this corner, and hope that nobody hears me. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? I could go be shooting somebody in some other game right now, and I just don't have the attention span for it. Now I understand the appeal. Like people like the ebb and flow, the kind of roller coaster that you get. It makes the encounters feel more exciting. But whatever. I want to get in there and start shooting at people. Yeah. This sounds like it's more a Halo, because Halo's never been about camping, right? It's always been about, and that's the thing that when people say that Halo's made for BR, that's the thing.
It's a legitimate strategy.
If you have a mangler, definitely.
Oh, I mean, yeah. If you're Soul, you camp.
I don't camp. What?
95% of us don't camp in Halo. So like when people said, "Oh, Halo's cut out for BR," it's like, yeah, to some extent, I could see the weapon variety being interesting and all that stuff. But the pacing of Halo, what attracts people to it, is that you're right back in that it kind of encourages you to be more aggressive, right? Or to engage and things like that, and try to not look to like hide out somewhere and try to sneak and hit somebody in the head while they're walking by you with no shields or whatever. So
unless you have a mangler.
Unless you're Soul and you play with the mangler.
No. Unless you had a mangler pre-nerf, you know what I'm saying? Because that was the most efficient way. But now post-nerf, it's like, hey, might as well shoot.
You specifically called out yourself by saying you used to camp and just like wait for people to come by.
We're gonna remember
I'm
that,
saying
so.
I was up against campers in mangler SWAT, and it was very weird.
Oh, okay. But
I think the reason why this will work, even if like this is the most BR thing that we ever get in Halo, it won't be. But I think it's that you spawn with a full loadout, grenades, sidekick, and assault rifle, most likely. And it's more about like playing on the big team battle maps as they exist. The coolest thing about this new big team battle map is that it has at least one, and then Joseph Staten teases a second interactive map feature, which is inherently incredible, like inherently exciting, in my opinion. There's a big laser beam in the middle of the map that supposedly rotates around the map. And then there's a big like dust cloud that will apparently
has eyes.
You.
By the way, you see the eyes in the dust cloud?
I don't see it.
What? It's right there.
I don't see eyes on there. I mean, I guess I can kind of see like a
tweet. Give me a sec. Oh, dumb cat move. Ow.
It's already open.
Oh yeah. No, it does look like the Didact a little bit. I guess people are saying that it's the Didact Storm.
Interesting.
Wait, so what about the thing they mentioned about loadouts getting stronger as you kill people? So is there a gun game aspect to this or what? Because that's what I kind of assumed when I read that.
I hadn't seen mention of gun game aspects with this. All I saw was the big team battle setup for 24-player.
The exact wording on the leak is every Spartan for themselves. Level up your loadout by earning personal score to be the last Spartan standing.
Is it going to be like could you imagine it being like a Counter-Strike buy system?
But
no, what's that? I don't play CS.
So that
like just like the currency.
It does sound like Warzone.
So I was going to say that does lean into what I was like the next point, and like Samia like is like kind of challenging me in the chat. He's like, "There's OBM's problems. Like, just you got to be more aggressive. It's more fun." Well, so here's the thing I was going to say. Like from what you were just leaking there, that's what I heard too. That you're supposed to level up when you engage. So that encourages you, right, to be more aggressive
actually
from the
fight.
beginning. Yeah, to get out there, to start to be aggressive so that you can level up. So I think that is kind of like potentially I don't know if that foreshadows what Halo's bigger team mode is going to be. If that's going to foreshadow their battle royale or whatever they have. I think we all expect something that's going to be
kind of like the
along those lines.
Eliminator, right? Where it's like you want to duel people because when you win a duel, you get for those uninitiated, Eliminator is the Forza Horizon battle royale. I've only played it a handful of times, but it was fun because you want to duel people because you win a duel, you get a better car.
Yeah.
Oh, I never played it. So
No, it's pretty fun. You should give it a shot.
Pretty rad. It's
okay.
one of those things that you would never think would work, but somehow it does.
Yeah.
Surprisingly fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try it out. I suck at I play Forza Horizon. I'm not very good at racing games though. That's why I just play Halo. Yeah. So that like if that mode catches, like,
and they're being pretty low about the mode, at least for now.
Yeah.
I didn't think it'd be this. When they announced it in the blog post, I legit thought it was just another kind of free-for-all mode, right? But this is very different.
If it's big team battle, if it's something different that we have never seen in Halo, and if it has a good pace to it, it could be, it could be a significant.
If it's good,
change.
if it's got good parts, if everything about it's good, it could be good. I agree.
It tastes good. I'm gonna eat it.
You said it perfectly, Jesse. Thank you for.
If they make a good mode, it could be pretty good, guys. I don't know about you.
Whoa.
All right. Does somebody else got the mute button on Jesse?
No.
One thing Forbear mentioned, and I really wanted to talk about it, is the continuation of the multiplayer narrative. Are we expecting like a mission to play? Because the first season had the tutorial. Technically, it was playable. You had cutscenes, you had talking, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Are we expecting something similar?
Probably video.
I think they imply there's something. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be gameplay or not, but
I mean, we see a snippet of a cutscene. I anticipate it basically just being a cutscene.
Maybe we can play the same map again, the tutorial area.
I would hope that we finally get some sort of PvE content in season 3 because I think, for me, I do play a little bit.
Speaking my language, brother.
I do play some, competitive, but I'm much more of a like co-op guy. Like I would much rather, chill out like with Abe and you guys and just shoot aliens or shoot, I guess insurrectionists. But
if that's the Forge season, then that could be the opportunity. We get a mix of 343's Forge stuff and fan-made Forge stuff, and
and that'd be
from there. Yeah.
It'd be super cool for them to like to cater season 3 to being like, hey, it's Forge season, and you get like cool Forgey armor, and then for season 4 even, which is gonna bum me out. But like season 4 even being like, hey, PvE, not just our stuff, you have it. Here are Forge tools for PvE development.
We are getting, within the next probably 2.5 months, we are getting co-op. That's something.
Yeah. How funny is it that we're getting co-op in a battle pass called Lone Wolves? They definitely did that on purpose.
And the fact that it's called Lone Wolves, but it shows a bunch of people all playing together. And it goes against the premise.
Isn't it ironic? Okay, let's go to.
No, we're gonna get the MCA. No. You sound just like her.
Hey, what are you doing here, man? American Idol's
on your wedding day is not ironic. It's just shitty luck.
No, it's called a bad coincidence. That song has almost nothing ironic in it. It'd be like, I got hit by. I'm a diabetic and I was having an episode and I get hit by a friggin' thing carrying insulin. That would be ironic.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
As you go into diabetic shock.
All right, let's go. Let's move. Go ahead.
The same thing. I'm moving forward. So they were pretty kind of clear, and they had to kind of clarify. But in the Tenrai commercial, right, they had armor pieces that weren't available.
Yeah.
So in this teaser, they did mention that most of. Initially, they said everything, but they said most of the stuff you see here, including the cool elite skull shoulders, which are actually the final reward in the battle pass. They said most of the stuff on here is available in the battle pass or free events. They did say like when people started doing like frame by frames, they saw some things that weren't in
I
there.
can almost tell you exactly what it is too.
Yeah.
There's the shot where you see the War Master helmet from like Halo 4 and 5, and the dude has like the eagle on his shoulder. Guaranteed that's the shoulder piece that they're talking about.
There was one frame they snuck in there where they had the Spartan, ring. down there, that's gonna cost some money.
It's actually it's a flat shoulder pad, but it's just a picture of Pablo Schreiber's ass on it, and then the other one has Maquis' ass on it, and you're just
it's
like
enormous. Yeah. But, all right, fine. I'll just spell it out for you, Soul. I know you're an innocent little man. The Spartan cock ring.
Oh,
Yeah, it was only one frame.
what the hell?
You got to go through frame by frame. I bet you'll find it. And if you don't find it the first time, do it like 30 more times. Just keep looking at every frame.
Oh, good Lord. All right, so let's move on to the community questions, guys.
Wait, there's one more piece of news, my Halo brethren.
All right, let's go.
Motherfucking flood firefight, baby.
Yes, for ODC,
yeah,
right?
Halo MCC.
Finally coming to the MCC next week. I imagine a blog is inbound relatively, probably as soon as we wrap up tonight, actually. I'm super stoked about it. I know, Daniel, you said even just moments ago how much you're a PvE guy as well as I am. I'm pretty excited about flood firefight and ODST firefight. I think that's going to be super dope. And don't forget too, guys, like the MCC is definitely still a powerhouse. There are still rumors and stuff circulating every so often that they're working on like this massive 40-player big team battle for MCC. I think the MCC still has a good amount of blood left in it, a good amount of life left in it, rather, which it's going to need if Infinite's going to take just a little bit longer to get where.
And of course, the first reply, adding content to your 8-year-old game before your 5-month-old game. Skull.
1,800 likes.
God. I'll let 1,165 likes.
This is why we can't have nice things.
That's
Well,
why
see, and I got a funny thing here. So this is good old Master Chief himself, Pablo Schreiber. They show the Cybertruck, and Elon Musk says, "Master Chief would love it, haha." And he says, "I do indeed." And what's the response? "Sorry, bud. Steve Downs is the real Master Chief." And then within a few tweets, the guy's like, "Oh God, I'm sorry. I was such a shithead." And then Pablo's like, "I agree. I truly wish there was more unity and positivity in the Halo community. It's such a cool, unique universe that deserves celebration. I wish we could come together more and choose sides less." AKA
sweet
saying,
summer child.
F you to r/Halo, which I'm fully on board with.
You know, it's actually our games has been super toxic these days too. Kind of surprising. I had some good discussion on Halo earlier.
Fuck everything.
Reddit.
I mean, Pablo Schreiber in season 2 of Halo is just gonna have bags under his eyes with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Be like, Halo fucking sucks. Halo fans are the fucking worst.
Sad Pablo, like sad Keanu all over.
Just get different shots of him looking forlorn.
It's oh no, what is his name? Batman. Ben Affleck. It's the image of Ben Affleck like hanging outside of his apartment, looking like on the verge of like a suicide hotline call. Like, man's had it rough. Kind of like Pablo Schreiber's just gonna be like, "I'm the fucking chief. What's up?" It'll be good.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right. So to get back on the rails, should we see what the community is asking us?
Yeah. I've got them ready. Give me one sec, and I'll get everything.
Let's play a quick game. Which ass was better? Maquis or Chief? Go.
No one's gonna say Chief.
I
He doesn't have much of an ass.
to.
He's got a pretty small ass. Her body double did not.
Honestly, the most frustrating thing in that scene was that Pablo Schreiber put a towel around himself because Spartans don't care, man.
No, obviously, he didn't even lock the damn room when he was doing all that shit. But all right,
Like, focal point this whole time. Why didn't he lock the bathroom, man?
All right, so we've got a couple. I ignored one from some guy named Mort. It wasn't worth putting it on. So here we go. Number 1 from someone who's kind of worth. My brother, Travis Norris, Podrick Payne, the XboxEra patron, says, "Greetings, blessed panel. Today I have a moral question. During the scene with the blonde cubby woman and the hunters assaulting the UNSC ship's crew, was it wrong for my first thought to be, I've seen enough tentacle hentai to know where this is going?"
Jesus Christ.
Answer.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't wrong of you. I'm disappointed that it wasn't my first thought. So good on you.
good answer.
I think we all agree.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
I agree. All right, moving on.
Number 2 from good old Collingwood. I got to move it down because it's pretty big and it's gonna take too much. There we go.
If I had a dime.
Good old Collingwood,
Really off
a
the
fellow
rails.
XboxEra patron. Hello, Halo followers. Lately, some commentators have discussed the idea of prioritizing Forge to the top in order to combat the perceived lack of content in Halo Infinite. They propose that if 343 Industries are unable to supply the content, then Forge community should be given the opportunity to provide that content. What are the You Had Me at Hello's panel's thoughts about this? And good old Collingwood, with a quote from a war criminal, "If you're going through hell, keep going. Winston Church, piece of shit."
I'm like, what? Who's called war criminal?
This is an interesting question because I feel like this has always been the approach to Halo community created content, like user generated content. Is if it's good enough, then absolutely implement it in the game. There's no reason for it to be its own separate thing.
I think that
that's a great
Forge
idea.
is so big this time that they can't prioritize it probably more than they can. I bet you what they're really.
Oh, as far as like
aware-
developing Forge.
Yeah, because his thing
Oh,
is like,
I misunderstood
yeah,
the question then.
Yeah, should Forge be prioritized to their top of the list to get out as soon as possible? It's like, I bet you they can't. No matter how much they did, Forge is coming when it comes because this is such a different beast.
I imagine that there's a shitload of people working on it every day to make sure that it launches and blows everything else out of the water. Like what we've seen of it already is kind of mind-blowing. I think for it to launch perfectly is the optimal solution, and the best way to do that is to put as much attention on it as you can. And who's to say that it's not one of the things at the top of their priority list right now?
I would have to guess that they're. I'm guessing 343 is just as aware as, and if not more than anybody, what sort of impact that could have on the community and in terms of the perception of content. But we've mentioned this, or I've mentioned this before, and I think that it is really the way that Staten seems like. If you just kind of read between everything he says, like they're going to put things out when they're ready, and I think it's more about that when it does launch, it has to be quality. Like it can't come out there, and I think, you know, regardless of what they're saying or what they're implying, I don't think it can launch and be like half-assed, right? Like this is their chance to really almost be like a soft relaunch of the franchise, because I would expect that, you know, in today's environment with all the virality that's possible due to I can't speak today. I know.
I mean, COVID is pretty
I love that.
out there.
I can't say anything more than like really good, you know. But anyway,
guys, I talk real good.
I'm trying to say good words, guys. English.
I can't say anything more than good.
So anyways, yeah, it's going to come out when it's ready. Hopefully that's season 3. Hopefully that's 3 months after season 2. I do expect that. If you looked around and saw some of the leaks on this thing, it's way beyond what's been out there before. And I think I expect this to be a soft relaunch for the franchise when it does come out. That's just my impressions. I don't have any inside rumors on that. So.
The thing that's been happening every year since 2015 is this year of Destiny is better than the last year of Destiny. This is the best Destiny's ever been. It happens every year, and Halo Infinite will 100% have that same cycle to it. Every year will be better than the last. There's no guys. The good news is that it launched pretty rough. And so there's only one way to go, and it's up. Yeah. So though
I'm sure like 3 years from now, you'll have people going like, man, guys, remember season 1? That was like, oh, that was amazing. What happened to that time?
Yeah, where's Halo Infinite Classic releasing?
Yeah, so the Halo rotation is going to go from the last game was the best to the last season was the best.
Yep.
Yeah.
This new season sucks. Season 1 was good. Season 2 was okay, but season 3 sucks. And then, you know.
To be fair, before responding to the question, with Austin's take on this version of Destiny is the best, that's a pretty low bar. Because
I
mean, yeah, like if you're talking like Taken King, then absolutely. Like it'd be like, man, this polished turn's a lot better than a regular turn.
Exactly.
You always compare Destiny to the good parts, which were Taken King, like with Rise of Iron. And now Witch Queen.
Taken King,
and
Forsaken, and Witch Queen, which, oh my god.
I heard the rate is great.
Yeah. Can you still play Forsaken content?
Yeah,
a little, yeah.
Can't do the campaign, but the raids
Exactly.
there, the there.
That's my point. But yeah, no, you don't want to change priority on it. It's probably already close to the top anyway. But like you guys said, if you put it out half-assed, it's just going to get reamed. So you're going to do more damage than good anyway. And as expansive as the systems are in Forge that we've seen thus far in leagues, as what they imply, it's going to be massive. So you want to make sure that, despite what we said about QA earlier and how players will demolish anything the moment they get it, you still want to have tons and tons of testing before it gets out.
Yeah. The last thing you want is to release something like as massive as Forge broken. That'd be the worst.
I know I said it earlier, but Daniel saying it for some reason reminded me. Go ahead and tell me you don't know anything about game development without telling me you don't know anything about game development when you bitch about a cookbook coming out.
Oh my god!
Fuck off! Fuck off so hard.
This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things.
And like the thing is, right? Is like it's not like 343 Industries works on the whole game at once as a whole. There are teams, different disciplines. Like, did you know the art team doesn't program anything?
What?
Fucking mind blowing.
They're all developers.
Like, I wonder if people spent the time that they spent being assholes online doing something productive. I wonder how much of a utopia.
Just learning about game development.
Fuck, even that. Yeah, I'll take that. Take that.
No, we know if they would not have focused on the cookbook, 343 could have had another map. So, all right, next question.
Next question is the last question. It's from some new guy. I hadn't seen this question ever before. His name is Mort. He's a patron now. He likes cats quite a bit. All right, let me put this up here.
Oh, well, then it's a no-go. We got to pass on that.
Mort. Hello, panel and cats. But I mean, there's no cats around. Who the fuck is he talking to? 2 questions for me this time. The cats aren't on camera with a microphone. They don't
fair
count.
enough.
They're background.
Fair enough.
2 questions for me this time. Outside of Master Chief, who is your favorite character so far in the series and why? Is there someone you hope they focus on more as we go forward and someone you don't like? Do the first question.
Soren, favorite character outside of Chief. Least favorite character that I hope dies is Bern Gorman's character, the insurrectionist UNSC Patsy plant dude. Yeah,
that's a good answer.
Keys. I know. Thus far, he hasn't been super fleshed out, but I think of the characters that exist in the show right now that are kind of showing like hints at some gray morality. I think he's definitely going to be one that plays into it more as the series goes on, especially if he and Chief develop the relationship that they kind of have in the extended universe. I think that's going to be a great character. I'd say Keys.
He doesn't seem happy. Doesn't seem happy with what he has to do, but he understands why he has to do it. He's playing the game, but he doesn't enjoy the game.
Yeah. When they ordered like the arrest of Chief in the first episode, like I don't know what I just said. When they ordered Chief to be arrested in the first episode, he wasn't cool about it. He wasn't super down for it. So cool guy in my book.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I guess I'm going to being the Halo fan. It's going to be hard not to just say Cortana, just because that's the most Halo thing. Although I'm going to go with Dr. Halsey. Like I said, I think she's impressed me. I think she's somebody that kind of stands out, and just the actress. So far I find her interesting. So I'll change it up there. In terms of who
I'm going to go with the guy who wanted to kiss her clone as the best character.
No, that's the guy I want to see dead, like right away. As soon as he did that,
that's why he's the best, because he got the most evocative emotion out of me of what the fuck.
No, that's the one I want. That's the one I want to see dead first. So I don't know how that's going to happen, but but
not gonna lie, I misread the question at first. So in my head, I'm thinking like, man, favorite Halo character with other than Chief. I don't know, it's gotta be Kurt, right? But in the TV show, probably Vanek. Even though we've only seen him for maybe he's only spoken like 2-3 lines.
But he's got the best voice ever.
Yeah, right. Straight up, his armor's amazing.
His presence
and he killed
is
someone.
Really good.
Oof, I'm looking for. He's definitely gonna fight next episode. It's gonna be pretty hype. Least favorite Kwanha so far. I'm just not a fan of her character in the last episode. Just a whining, spoiled little princess.
She lived on a dirt planet.
It was bad. It was bad writing.
leader of the
Never.
insurrectionists. Like, if you try and demand things from people without any kind of like, hey, I have things too.
Yeah.
That's like, lady, like, who do you think you are?
Ooh,
Like,
way you saw all your people get slaughtered by the Covenant a day ago. You little.
ugh. It's not that.
You know,
It's
Thank you,
the
Jez.
self-importance, right? You know what I mean? It's like you think you're more than you are, which is the
You know,
issue.
I'm going to change mine. I just thought about it, but
Man, you're malleable.
I know. No, I am. I can be.
Oh no, light breeze. All my opinions.
No, I just thought about it though. But Charlie Murphy's character, Maki or whatever, that I still have. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on Maki yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say, because the other ones we know they're throwaways. They're there just to get torn apart at some point.
Sure.
You know,
it's not
Maki,
the captain of the ship that let Maki on board. I feel like you had something. He had like a vendetta against that guy.
yeah, but he's already gone, so don't worry about it. You know, I don't.
And
need to
she
worry about
killed
it.
him, so doesn't that make you like her more?
Yeah.
No,
She had an energy nail. Come on.
I'm not sold on Maki. So,
What about
Maki's
Maki?
that's
Does he
I
have
won't
what you
say.
need?
well,
What about the little kid who tried kissing Maki and got beat to death by a baton?
That's Abe's favorite character is the guy who killed him with the baton. He just doesn't
oh
want to
my
admit it.
god, no.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah, so yeah, Maki, I'm still not interested. But,
Right.
yeah.
And there is a
Thinking
second part of this question, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Master Chief's butt? Hugs, more to the ignored. I've never even heard of his name before, so I know how he's ignored. It's
I'd say like I'm gonna be honest, solid 8, very, very toned.
he's
very
a ripped
toned.
man, so it's not going to be bulbous. It's going to be pretty
That's what
small, but it's shapely.
Here's the thing.
Unless
An ass
you do a lot
is
of
an
leg
ass.
days.
It's not a bad one. Here for it.
All right, who's next?
You decide.
All right, Daniel.
117.
Did you just say 117? Yeah.
did.
All right.
Yep, on the
all
scale
right.
of 117.
That's a good answer. I don't have one, honestly. I didn't really think about it too much after the show.
I was focused on the
But
knife.
you all thought about
I'm not
Maki,
sure.
huh?
Yeah, I didn't really think about her butt either, to be honest.
Actually, Maki's. I was looking for incisions, showing if she was like enhanced. That was interesting. There wasn't.
She had the scar on her back.
Oh,
but-
is that why
Yeah,
you're?
yeah.
Is that why you were pausing it, Soul? Okay.
I wish, man. Paramount app sucks.
The whole time,
Pausing is
Abe's
terrible.
just like, man, the door's not unlocked. Somebody could just walk in.
Next time I lock the door when I'm taking it.
It's that American prudishness. We're
I
so
told
afraid of
you.
our bodies.
Oh man!
Yeah.
All right,
That's it. Those are our questions.
that's it. Well, I guess that's the end. And today, I think today's show was good.
I hope. Yeah.
I'd
Good
rate
things
that-
are good.
Episode 3 is good. All right, so who wants to do today's sign off? And I guess then we're out of here.
I'll
Who's
do it.
volunteering to- All right, you do it.
Yes. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lead it off to Soul. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So if you like what you watched today, you can visit us at patreon.com/XboxEra. That really is the best way to help our organization grow, so we can become a world power like IGN. They started as a Nintendo site, you know. We're an Xbox site, but the more money we get, the more power we can buy. So patreon.com/XboxEra if you want to support us. Also, liking and commenting on like this video itself, really good way to get us up in that annoying fucking YouTube algorithm that I hate. Because we don't do clickbait. That's our whole thing.
Mhm.
And we are doing this every week. 4, 5, 6 of us, depending on who's available. We'll be going over the latest Halo episode, as well as breaking down the seeming deluge of season 2 content that we're going to be getting. So every Friday, most likely at 7, if people can actually show up on time, we will be going live here on the YouTube. So please watch. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
See you later. Bye bye.